Brett. Hi, Claudia.
Hi,
Oh,
Jackie.
oh, good. I thought you weren't there then. Great to have you here, Claudia. So, Claudia is a menopause and health promotion coach, and she's an entrepreneur, and she runs her own business, which is called Menopause and More. Okay, so Claudia, tell us a little bit about you, how you got to be doing what you're doing. Yeah, just a little line about that.
Yeah. Hi, thanks, Jackie, for having me today.
Good.
So I decided after my children got a bit older that I wanted to do something again. So I studied health promotion, and how I came to work in the field of menopause is actually really through my own experience because in 2017, I was studying final year for my degree. Everything was going fine. I loved it. And I was suffering from symptoms that I hadn't, I didn't know where to put them really. And it was really strange because I was preparing to give a talk on bladder dysfunction at university and I was doing the research for it and came across a research paper by Amanda Griffith, and she did a paper called Menopause and Work. And as I was reading it, I thought, oh my God, it was such a light bulb moment for me because I could just identify with all the symptoms that she listed in her paper. And I just went, oh my God, tick, 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 that's all me. And I realized that actually I was perimenopausal at the time. And I was suffering, quite badly, I have to say. And then I sort of looked more into it and realized that even though there is some information out there, or now there is more out there, but
Yeah.
at the time there wasn't enough. And I just dived into the subject and really thought I need to raise more awareness because whoever I spoke to said, oh yeah, menopause, hot flashes. But actually there's so much more to menopause. And that's how I became an advocate, an awareness, rising awareness about the subject.
Mm. So just to talk about that a little bit, Claudia. Tell me, what age was that when that happened to you?
So I was 46, and that's
Okay.
yeah, and that's quite typical for women to start experiencing menopausal symptoms. I mean, I could, yeah. So basically, in the UK, women go through menopause around about the age of 51 on average. But that doesn't mean that up until the age of 51, everything is fantastic,
Yeah,
and goes.
exactly.
No, actually, there are certain parts to it. There is something called the perimenopause and actually premenopause as well, when our hormones are still quite on a normal high level and we are enjoying our monthly cycles. And then from about the age of 40, or even a little bit before, these hormone levels start to dip. And in a sort of a natural way, from about the age of 45, the NICE guidelines, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, they say that from the age of 45, if women do experience menopausal symptoms, they are definitely perimenopausal. So that's what I was experiencing.
So thank you for that, Claudia. So tell us, why is it important to acknowledge those symptoms?
Well, I mean, for a start, it's quite interesting that you think only in recent times we have really started talking about menopause. It was
Yeah.
such only 5, 10 years ago. I mean, hardly anyone spoke about it publicly. And if you think that half the population, just alone in the UK, well, worldwide, half the population are women, and in the UK, roughly half the population, that's 30 million women, are women, and of those, 13 million are in a constant stage of any menopausal phase. So whether
Mm,
menopausal or postmenopausal. And I think that's really important to realize that women do not have to go through this alone. There are 13 million other women at one given time that really will go through the same or similar symptoms or experiences as you are. So I just want to, say that this is why it is important. And also, there's such a stigma and taboo around the subject of menopause still, even though we do talk more about it, and even though there has been a lot more awareness in recent television. I'm sure you've heard about, all the campaigns and sessions on the BBC and ITV, but they're really, if it comes to the nitty-gritty, women still don't feel empowered enough to really go out and do something about it. Or yeah, anyway.
Brilliant. Thank you. So can you just, briefly just tell us what is menopause? I mean, you have briefly said about perimenopause but what happens to us?
Yeah, so menopause really marks the end of a woman's reproductive years, which is sort of marked by the cessation of the periods or their monthly cycles. This happens round about the age of 51 in the UK, as I said, but the actual menopause is only one day, and it's marked by the day when a woman hasn't had a natural period for 365 days. Everything before this day of menopause is called perimenopause, and everything after this day of menopause is called postmenopause. And women do experience many of the symptoms that we usually say happen in menopause, which we use as an umbrella term, and that's fine. Most of the symptoms really start around the perimenopausal phase. That's how women first think something's up. And that doesn't mean that their periods have stopped already, because they can experience symptoms long before then. And the fluctuation in their hormone levels then starts affecting their period cycles, and then they become more and more aware that this might be, but many are just not sure what really, or where it starts and where it will finish, if it does finish. Yeah. So the symptoms usually last, on average, by the British Menopause Society, they say between 7 and 12 years. And women experience around 7 symptoms on average. But everybody is individual, and everybody's onset and duration and experience with the menopause is very individual. And we should sort of acknowledge that and respect that as well, I think.
Definitely, for sure. So, I mean, you said on average there's we experience 7 symptoms. So what are some of those symptoms? Because I mean, I'm sure there's symptoms that people are not really thinking of.
Oh yeah, I mean, the British Menopause Society, they have around 30-ish symptoms, 34, and then other institutions have got a few more, a few less. I mean, the list is really endless, and often women do not associate, for example, joint pain with reduction in estrogen levels. So basically, the reduction in our estrogen and progesterone levels, which are our sex hormones, sort of really work on all sorts of receptors in our body. And depending on ourselves and our own makeup, it depends on where they come out. So for some women, it's joint pains. For others, it's thinning hair. For others, it's bladder dysfunction, hot flushes, sleep deprivation, lack of confidence, loss of memory loss, what else? I mean, there's like a huge list. Loss of libido, weight, women say, although that's a little bit of a little bit mythy, but yeah. And there are so many different symptoms that women are affected by. And if I just sort of point out the sleep, for example. I mean, sleep is one of the key issues where I hear it over and over again from women that they do suffer with sleep issues during their perimenopausal phase and menopausal phase. And sleep really, if you and I know, if we don't sleep, nothing else really happens. You're in a bad mood, you haven't slept, you can't concentrate, your energy levels are low, you are more emotional, you eat less well, you don't want to exercise in the same way as you do, you've had a good night's sleep. Yeah. So sleep is really one of the key symptoms, I would say, that affect women in going through perimenopause and menopause. But for the workplace especially, it would be loss of concentration. Anxiety is a big factor as well. And anxiety obviously plays on our minds at the moment a lot because we are in this unprecedented situation. And that's why I think, even though women do sort of tend to cope very well up to a certain point with all their menopausal symptoms, for a certain number of women, and it's actually 25% of women, the symptoms are so bad that they have a debilitating effect on their lives.
Yeah.
Anxiety and lack of sleep combined with the situation that we are currently in, I'm sure must be terrible for some women out there.
I just want to bring you back to weight gain because you said it's a little bit mythy. So
long sometimes.
your made up word. Yeah, I like made up words. It's fine. So talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me a bit about why you say it's a myth, because a lot of people say that they do put on weight, they find that they get belly fat, much more belly fat. There is, even in my training, we did go over the fact that that does happen, and it tends to be, in terms of nutrition wise, people's nutrition changes, but people don't change with that, and their exercise changes and they don't change with that. So tell me a little bit more about what you
do. And I mean, you have a great knowledge about this as well. But from my point of view, I mean, I know that fat likes estrogen. Fat lives on estrogen. So as we're getting older and our estrogen levels go down, our fat in our bodies is the first one to say, hey, I want the remaining estrogen, please, and instead of our joints and our hair and our skin and everything. So the estrogen goes to the fat cells first. And unfortunately, they then tend to be more around the belly, because as we lose our estrogen and we lose our muscle strength, it sort of goes south, basically, and it accumulates around our belly. Now, another factor that I think that happens in that time, obviously, because we don't feel 100%, we feel a bit achy, a little bit under the weather, we're not feeling energized. You do get sort of slower in your normal pace of life, and therefore you tend to move less. You feel less encouraged to start exercising or to continue with your exercise, and of course, that combined with maybe a lot more evenings where you feel just too tired to do anything, lead to weight gain. So often what I have found now in the past few years that I've worked with women is either women that start hormone replacement therapy in form of these great products that are now out there. They feel actually that by adding hormones to their remaining hormones, they feel more energized, and they feel they actually can exercise better again, and they feel they have this go again and this quality of life that they were sort of lacking at that time. Don't know, do you agree with that? I think.
Well, in terms of people I mean, I don't know about in terms of hormone replacement, but in terms of when people feel more balanced, yes, you've got more energy, you feel like you definitely have much more ability to feel like you feel more of yourself again. Yeah, exactly. That you can go and do all the things that you may have been doing previously. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. So just talking about, obviously, because you touched on where we're at the moment, and anxiety can be a big factor when it comes to menopause, and people may not relate it to actual menopause symptom. So and obviously, because we're in this zone of staying in, which isn't the greatest place to be, do you know what I mean? What kinds of tips would you give people? Okay, it may not just be your anxiety, but that's going to relieve your anxiety if you've got some self-care tips to kind of help you on your way. But what types of things do you think people could be doing?
Well, I mean, generally, I think if stress levels rise, your self-care goes down, definitely. And I really feel that, in at the moment, everybody is in this new situation that is completely, alien to us up until recently, and we just have to sort of make the best of it, really, and don't forget to look after ourselves as well as, the changed situation around us, which, it's difficult, but I think if you can allow yourself just a few minutes in your day where you think, actually, I need to just step out of this, step away from, social media, the news, calm down. I really think it's important to, try and be physically and mentally, fit. So exercise, make sure that you eat the right food, go for your walks or your run or you offer all these fantastic classes online, so take part in one of those, or if you enjoy cooking, for example, then cook a nice dish that you always fancy cooking. And if you suffer from hot flushes at the same time, then make sure you include sage in your food, or thyme. Thyme reduces anxiety levels, or sage, make sure you eat all your fish, your omega-3 oils, that you get the right nutrition really in that time that is so important.
Yeah.
And sleep, practice your sleep routine. If you do suffer from night sweats, make sure that, in the evening you do actually have a time to yourself, maybe with a relaxing Epsom salt bath, and then go. Don't have your phone next to you. Make sure you have a room. All of these things. And I know everybody says we all do it. There's a lot of, we need to treat ourselves time, and it doesn't need to be always the glass of wine or the gin and tonic, because that leads to hot flushes. Make it make it, something good for yourself. Listen to a book or podcast. Make sure that you take care of yourself just a few minutes a day at least to regain some strength.
No, definitely, definitely. In terms of what you're saying, in terms of self-care, and when you talk about sleep, I always say to my clients, it's about having a power down hour. So 1 hour before you're going to go to bed is like really get yourself in that place where the lights are down, you're reading a book rather than having the phone, and you're going to the bath, like you said, having that nice bath, getting your essential oils out, all that kind of stuff. Your room is, your bedroom is nice and cool, ready for you to dive into that nice cool bed that's not hot because you've not put the heating, left the heating on, all those kind of things to actually give yourself that hour, because actually it takes yourself, maybe even longer sometimes to some people to wind down.
Of course, but I guess at the moment maybe people haven't got the time for it, and everybody, all the homeschooling that people do, or worrying about their jobs and so on. There's a lot of pressure at the moment out there. So I think it's important if you manage that time in the evening or in the morning, just to take that time out and try to enjoy yourself, and love yourself rather, than always looking after everyone else. That is
easier said than done some of the time, which I know. especially if you've got a few little ones, but they have got their bedtimes, what I mean, and generally most people have them at a certain time that they go to bed, so you have got a few hours for yourself, and actually keeping that time for yourself, and just making that good time in that time.
There are some really nice meditations out there. I just actually have to read the name. Jason Stevenson, somebody mentioned, has got a sleep meditation app, or sleep meditation on YouTube. I think I have to look him up. I only found it out today, and apparently they're free, and you can just listen to them. So that's something really nice to do in the evenings, or just a mindfulness app or something where you can just have 20 minutes meditate or practice your mindfulness and just try to remove yourself from everything that's going on around you and just concentrate on what's good to you. Breathing, 5, 7 out. I mean, we know, we, in theory, I'm sure most of us out there do know what to do, but it's just, allowing yourself and taking that time out.
Exactly. So, Claudia, tell us a little bit about, like, what type of things do you do with your clients? So if I came to you and, I was 46, which I'm not right now. Older than that. It's my big year. And and I came to you and I was like suffering with night sweats. Wasn't really, I was just feeling horrible. I'm just feeling, I'm soaked in the night. I had to change my bed. What kinds of things would you be saying to me?
I see myself really as empowering women to know what choices they have in terms of their menopausal journey. So I think often women know one or two things that they can do, or they speak to their GP, but their GP might not be very forthcoming in offering the right advice. So I think what I do is I would take a stock with you, in terms of where you are actually in your life, and I would include various social determinants of your health, really. What does influence you? And we would, take those all down, address those, and I use something that many menopause specialists use as well, which is the green scale for menopausal symptoms, which has a list of symptoms, and you can sort of say how severe you experience them on a 0 to 3, and that gives us a good picture of where you actually are on your journey.
Yeah, that's right.
Would offer you the different choices that you have, and we would talk through some lifestyle changes maybe, or go on to other health practitioners, then I would signpost you to the right ones. The same with maybe supplements, etc. Because there are so many supplements out there, and you could, a fortune on various supplements, and you don't know really to buy, And so I would have a few suggestions that I know through my nutritionist friends that are highly recommended, and nutritionists, PTs, acupuncturists, other health professionals, or I would support you in how you can address your GP if your GP is reluctant to either offer you, let's say, CBT. There's a lot of CBT out there for menopausal symptoms, or acupuncture, or hormone replacement therapy. So I would inform you and empower you to have all these choices and be equipped to walk through it. And then we would address certain issues that you have in each session, and guide you through it, and really see that you are, at the end of it, more informed and secure in how you want to move on. Because for many women, that also this menopausal journey offers new directions altogether, and it really, I call it a pit stop in a way when we come together, because you can really take stock of where you are, and then we can, I can support you in moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. What one-to-ones.
That's great. So, Claudia, what final words would you want to say to my audience in terms of what we've been talking about?
In terms of final words, I really want to say that we are all beautiful human beings, and we all really should think that life is not over by a long shot when we go through menopause. We have to remember that we live probably another 30 years postmenopausal, in which we can work on reducing those risks of getting other diseases, and where we can change our way of life, where we can change direction. We should really make sure that life is not over by a long shot. And you should say, and I say this to all women, just make menopause the making of you. Can do it.
Brilliant. That's great. I love that. So, Claudia, where can people find you? Tell us your website and everything else, or Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under Menopause and More, and I'm on Instagram, and of course I have a website called menopauseandmore.com. And yeah, you can contact me either for one-to-ones, or if you have a group of women. For example, I give a talk to a WI group tonight, which I'm really looking forward to on Zoom. That will be interesting.
That will be.
And I also speak to employers and employees. So I go into companies and speak to staff or managers about how to implement guidelines into their work, or just to raise more awareness amongst the staff. And yeah, so please contact me if you want any more information.
Brilliant. Thank you, Claudia. So that's the end of the Change and Grow Wellness show for this week. And that's me, Jackie Grant, signing off, your host. Take care.
Thank you, Jackie. Bye.
Bye.